things change over the weekend, and we should talk about the tragic events of this past weekend for a moment. And they call us to pause and reflect on the promise of our democracy and our responsibilities as its beneficiaries and stewards. As we entered this beautiful building today, many of us passed by these concise, magnificent words, the First Amendment. Charles said, carved in marble on the Newseum's Pennsylvania Avenue facade. It's nearly 74 feet high. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. My parents used to say that everything we need in a democracy is in there. It promises diversity, practice any religion you want or none if you want, to be able to speak and be protected by your government in your speech. That guarantees diversity. You guarantee diversity, you guarantee a democracy. And the day before she was felled in the attack in Tucson, Congresswoman Giffords was a member of the House of Representatives whose role it was to recite these words on the House floor. In a free society, the society that we Americans must always want our country to be, government should not and must not restrain free expression. But we learned as children, with freedom comes responsibility. The full flowering of democracy and freedom relies on the self-restraint of each citizen, organization, and group of citizens. The printed page, the radio microphone, the televised image, the TV ad, the blog post, and the Twitter feed all have the power to inspire, to motivate, and to inform. But they also have the power to inflame and incite. The seething rhetoric has gone too far. The demonizing of opponents, of government, of public service has gone too far. Our politics have become incendiary, and we all share the responsibility for lowering the temperature. That is the responsibility we all have to keep our democracy strong and thriving. The 535 members of the House and Senate have been elected to represent more than 300 million Americans from all walks of life. We have responsibilities within our borders, but we also have responsibilities outside our borders as our nation charts its way in a very complex and often very, very dangerous world. It is time to stop the polarizing symbolism and instead work together on the substance of the many challenges we face as a nation. Otherwise, our country, a blessed, bountiful, and expansive nation that survived a Revolutionary War, a Civil War, 2 world wars, and everything in between, faces decline. I cannot accept that, and neither should anybody in this room. You know, the dean mentioned that I'm the only Democrat elected to the Senate in Vermont's history. Incidentally, I was introduced that way once shortly after I was elected in Vermont, and a voice in the back room says, hey, ain't going to make that mistake twice. But you will recall the story of the landslide of Franklin Roosevelt when he carried every state except Maine and Vermont. Well, shortly after that, this was before I was born in Montpelier, Franklin Roosevelt came to Vermont. My father told me the story. Across the street from us was the National Life Insurance Company, the de facto headquarters of not only the Republican Party, but the anti-Roosevelt, very strongly anti-Roosevelt wing. President Roosevelt went by in an open car. My father was standing next to the president of the National Life at that time, men wore hats. When the president went by, the head of the company took his hat off, held it over his heart. My father turned to him and said, "Jim, I never thought I'd see you take your hat off to Franklin Roosevelt." He said, "I didn't. I took my hat off to the president." You know, think about that. We should show the kind of respect that things are due. The Pima County Sheriff was an everyman of this tragic moment when he movingly called for soul searching by all of us. We need to work together for the good of the country and the American people. After Oklahoma City, after the horrendous attacks of 9/11, we came together. And so now we need to come together. The tragedy should summon us to meet the challenges we face, not with emphasis on the issues that divide us, but on common ground that can unite us. It is easy to appeal to resentment and distrust and selfishness and hate. Leaders should appeal instead to our better angels. And when common ground remains elusive, we must respect the rights of others to hold and express their own views and beliefs. And one more thing, we must not allow any assault, even this horrendous one, on representative democracy to succeed in thwarting or muting our people's access to their elected representatives.